This is the Wally and Methot Show. Now, here are your hosts, Brent Wallace and Mark Methot.
Welcome to the Wally and Methot Show, everybody. I'm Brent Wallace. He's Mark Methot. This is brought to you by sportsinteraction.com/Wally Methot. Go to sportsinteraction.com and get in on all the action. They are Canada's odds maker. Meth, before we get into the show, all the news that broke on Wednesday and on Tuesday of everything that's gone on with the Chicago Blackhawks. I don't have a lot to say about it because I wasn't there and I'm not involved. But what I have seen from Chris Beach, I can't even fathom of what he has gone through for 10 years. And I can't say enough of how much we support him and what he has done. The investigations that have been done by Rick Westhead and Katie Strang and other people that are in Chicago as well, I don't want to forget them, has been phenomenal reporting as the NHL and the Chicago Blackhawks have tried to bury this for as long as they can, and it's come out. It is unfathomable how this all played out. As a player, I guess, I don't even know how to ask you, can you tell me about what that's like maybe to have to gone through? I don't even know if you've seen anything like this play out.
No, I think the biggest takeaway, you said it best right there, Wally, the courage that it took for Kyle Beach to come forward, do that publicly the way he did is monumental, really. And it's going to, you like to think at times that the league's changing and that the culture is changing. And of course, this was, 11 years ago, but really isn't that long ago, right? So obviously the hockey community is in shock right now. I don't know how you move forward other than put the focus on Kyle Beach right now. What he did was incredible. I watched the interview. It was gut-wrenching to listen to. It was hard to listen to as a player, especially. And I was playing against them. I was in that same division as Chicago. Not that makes a big difference here, but we're playing every other night against that team quite a bit. And you have no idea, right? Like it's such a crazy, horrible situation. And he's handled it as best he could. And props to Rick Westhead, obviously doing fantastic work there. And Katie Strang, as you mentioned, getting involved and uncovering the story. So how do you comment on something so awful? I don't know what to say other than, I think as a hockey community, we need to rally behind people when they come forward like this and provide support for them.
And deservedly so. I think there's more fallout still to come. And one of the problems
where does it go? Where does it go, Wally? Like at this point,
let's find out.
Like
and that's one of the things I don't like to comment on too much until we see more play out. But for them to say that the Chicago Blackhawks got a $2 million fine and that's it, that one's tough for me when I think of all the stuff that's happened where other teams have been fined or had to lose draft picks like the Arizona Coyotes. Like the $2 million fine is a nothing. It's like a $5,000 fine to an NHL player. It doesn't mean a lot. So I think there needs to be more done in that particular area.
I agree.
I shouldn't say the one problem. Jonathan Toews' comments make me feel like players still don't get it. And that's a problem I have. If you listen to his comments where he says, Stan Bowman is not directly implicit in this. They had a meeting with Stan Bowman and they had all those people that were in that office. So I have a tough time. I don't understand. Like, I'm a huge Jonathan Toews fan. I think he's done tremendous work for a lot of different things and charities. This one blows my mind that he's trying to defend the Chicago Blackhawks management for this particular incident.
Yeah. And these are so uncomfortable, these conversations, right? And they're meant to be, of course, they have to be. That's the only way you get any progress. But when I say that, like we talk about Jonathan Toews and his resume, which is impeccable, of course, and he's always been known as having a fantastic reputation. And I know that when he was captain, he was very young. That doesn't absolve anybody from anything. I saw the statement as well. We were going over it earlier, Wally, and I don't know how to approach this. I don't know what to say or do. I mean, we can start pointing fingers at people for sure, and people do need to own up to their mistakes. But I don't even know where to begin. I mean, this has so many people involved, and a lot of these people that were involved or that were there at the time have branched out and are on other teams now. And it's just a big fucking mess. Like, I don't know how you handle this. I don't know what to do.
People losing their jobs pales in comparison to what Kyle Beach has gone through for 10 years.
100%, man. And I couldn't imagine being in that position. Like, from a player's perspective, like, you'd like to think that you would handle something differently when you're presented in that situation, when you look back. But like when you're in it and, perhaps your livelihood is at stake, like there's a lot of different stuff happening there. And for him to come forward now the way he has, I can't stress this enough, is remarkable. Like the courage that requires to come forward and tell your story publicly, your face in front of the camera, for as big as it was. I mean, yeah, man, I feel for him. I just hope everyone, and I believe, everyone has been behind him now, and there's a ton of outpour of support for Kyle Beach. So again, I don't know how the league is going to handle this. I can only speculate, but I have no idea why.
The one thing that it's interesting to point out, I think, is Kyle Beach did this on a television screen in front of a camera, not in a newspaper where a lot of people tend to come out, so they don't have to look right on camera and all that reaction. That to me, it says so much more about trying to now come out and publicly want to be, helping to solve or resolve or making sure that maybe this doesn't happen again. Again, I know we've said it over and over, but for Kyle Beach, this is huge. I can't imagine the number of people that he has impacted because of what he's done.
It's huge. Leave it at that.
By the way, in our show today, Ray Ferraro is our guest, of course, the TSN and now ESPN analyst. We did the interview the day before this story broke, so we don't have a reaction from Ray Ferraro in this. So I just wanted to point it out as you listen to the interview. Anyway, as we try to move on in the show, tough day for the National Hockey League. Hopefully there's more to find out about this and to see. You know what, Meth? I actually have one more question. Joel Quenneville, who was denied knowing anything, and now it's come out. Basically, he was in the meeting. And should he be coaching another team in the National Hockey League? Like, if he's in Chicago, this is not even an issue for me. But now, what happens?
I don't know. I'll say this. Because I like to get all the information, which of course we have a ton of information now. So I don't jump the gun here. But in this case, how do you not, right? Like, how, from what I understand, and based off that interview, everyone understood what was going on. I mean, it was pretty common knowledge, and you've had multiple people now come out and say that. So to suggest that he was unaware, but again, I'm only assuming, right? And should he have been coaching last night, Wally? No. Like, at least step aside until you have a conversation with the commissioner and things settle a little bit. Now, I don't know how they settle after news like that. That's the only thing, but but to answer your question directly, no, I don't think he should be behind the bench until at least more information comes forward, and we can all assume safely based off that information that, he wasn't involved or wasn't aware of what was happening. So I don't know. It's so messy, man. I don't even know what the right answer is, other than I think everybody involved should step aside until more info comes forward and they're cleared of that.
It's clear there's more to come. We will follow the story along. But now to our show, which seems to pale in comparison, but we will get on to the headlines. Built by Bonnechere Excavating Inc., BEI. Go to BonnechereExcavating.com. They are helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. First up, road tripping. That's an homage to Craig, by the way. The Sens go back on the road for their first road trip of the season. They are in Dallas. We'll get more on that in a sec. Special agent Erik Brannstrom changes agents. Should he be changing locations and being in Ottawa? Bobby Big Wheel, Drake Batherson gets the hat trick the other night. And Lone Star, which goalie do you want in an elimination game right now? Which one of the three Sens goalies would you put in net? And that includes a healthy Matt Murray.
You're not going to ask me that.
No, I don't want to hear. I hate that question. We're asking it anyway.
Okay.
Here we go. Road tripping. So the Sens on their first road trip of the season, really their second road game, but they're on a 3-game road trip. You go to Dallas, Chicago, Minnesota. DJ Smith made a point yesterday, Wednesday, of saying, listen, we need to figure out a way to win on the road. How bad are they on the road? The Sens are the worst road team in the National Hockey League since the 2018-19 season. 104 games, they've won 27. Math for you, Meth, that is 30%. So it's not good. And I'm wondering what they need to do to fix it to start to win on the road.
Well, there's a couple things happening right now, right? So first of all, the obvious, you don't have last change on the road. So that home ice advantage is gone, right? So but so that's a credit to DJ and the coaching staff, right? So that they've managed to get a little bit more success at home, line matching, setting the guys right. Obviously working the crap out of Thomas Chabot and some of your top lines, of course, overplaying them. When you're on the road, you don't have that luxury, right? So you're having to manage your bench accordingly. And you're going to have guys out there sometimes that maybe don't necessarily belong in those high risk situations, that are in a situation where they're doing a D zone draw of an icing play or whatnot. And they're very vulnerable. So this just to me shows a lack of depth that you have in the team, right? And that's something that they're obviously going to have to address over the next season or two. You look at these road, Dallas is one thing. That's a winnable game for me. I haven't been overly impressed. I hate saying this. I love the Lone Star State. I love Dallas, but they haven't been that good. Minnesota is going to be a big test. Like you look at those top two lines, they're legit. Their back end is legit too. They're really good. That's going to be a great test. Now I say all that stuff. I said that against the Rangers. I said that against San Jose, and I thought Ottawa played great against them. I did. I thought they're really much. They've grown a lot since last season. Wally, they're a much better hockey club. So they've been proving me wrong. And now there was an epic collapse in that New York game, but that was avoidable. So forget about that. They can handle these teams. The test will be on the road, having to change first, not having the last change. That's going to be difficult. And then of course their goaltending.
So basically you're saying Thomas Chabot plays 40 minutes a night in Dallas.
Well, that's, and it's funny because Ian brought up, I read, it was a really good little article about whether they should be splitting up Chabot and Zub. I found that very intriguing. I don't think you should. Sorry, you have your finger up.
Well, I was going to wait till we got into Erik Brannstrom and whatnot, but if you want to ruin the headlines, go ahead and do what you got to do. Yeah.
Let's focus on the road trip. No, this is important. So the road trip, no, that's fair. That's fair. I like two of those three games are winnable for sure. The Minnesota game for me, not so much, but you never know with these pesky Sens. They're completely capable of doing so. But we got to remember that when we projected them before the season, they were barely making the playoffs. They're going to have to lose some games here. So I don't want anyone pinning you and I as bad guys when we think they're going to lose any given night, because that's quite frankly the way this works when you're rebuilding a hockey team.
See, and I think Chicago is the trap game. See, they're going into Chicago right now. That's a team that's in an absolute mess. But they've got guys who are out. I think 6 guys somehow with COVID protocol or whatnot. I think they come back. This is a team looking for a win, and that's the trap game. That's what I'm thinking.
But see, making that prediction, there's no it's an easy prediction to make.
That's
only
right.
because there are no repercussions, right? Like you're playing with house money, and if they win, well, they should have won the game.
You can't. No, don't call me out for this. I've tried to just slide that through. Damn it.
It's all good. No. But listen, to a degree, I do understand where you're coming from. Like that is a trap game. Like when you have a team struggling and it's a complete dumpster fire of an organization at the moment, they're very unpredictable. So, and when you have a lot of AHL guys that are in the lineup and they're trying to prove something, you're right. There's potential there for an upset, but that to me, the Dallas game, also a winnable game. I think they should. The goal this trip is to win 2 of those 3 games, and Dallas and Minnesota are the ones that are prime for picking.
All right, I'm going to point out some historical stats. Sens in Dallas. Now, the only issue I have with that is teams change from year to year, so they don't necessarily mean something, but sometimes there's patterns.
Sure.
The Sens have lost 2 straight in Dallas, 6 of 9, and they're 8-13 lifetime in Dallas.
Okay.
The last time the Sens won in Dallas, March 5th, 2018, you're in the lineup.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The Dallas Stars.
Yep.
That's
I remember
how long
the game.
ago it was.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So they're due.
You say you remember the game. Would anything happen?
No, I remember tangling with Pajot at net front.
Oh,
he gave me a little cross check when the little rat was coming around from behind the net. And it was in the second period. And I felt bad. I gave him one of the hardest cross checks I've ever given somebody in my life, right down on his lower back. And that was the end of that. So that was the only significant moment of that game that I can legitimately remember. Yeah.
Is this why he doesn't come on our show just yet?
No. Me and Paige are tight. He came to my wedding. I went to his. We were always close. You can't. He's the kind of guy you can never really get mad at. Like he's just happy-go-lucky. I'm sure you guys are well aware of that. Yeah. But but on the ice, it's prison rules.
Was there ever a comment after the game or a joke?
No.
Oh
no.
Right.
I didn't run into any of them. Yeah, I wish I had a funny story there, but there's nothing, Wally.
Well, we'll get him. Try to get him on the show then. All right, that's your assignment.
Oh, we'll get him on. We're going to get him on. He's just, he's busy. he's playing hockey right now, so it's all good.
Topic number 2, special agent Erik Brannstrom. So he changes agents, which I'm going to ask you about.
Here we
should
go.
he be changing location? Should he be in Ottawa? There's lots there. And you brought up, Ian Mendez's article about splitting up Zub and Shabbat. We'll work this all in. Let's just talk about the D. But first, Erik Brannstrom's mid-season switch. What does that tell you the mindset is right now for that defenseman?
Well, okay, let's address the agent thing really quickly first and get that one out of the way. When you change agents in a situation like this, it's pretty common. You're just looking for a fresh face to represent you, to go back and forth with the organization, because the last agent probably starting to fall on deaf ears a little in Ottawa. He's constantly calling and trying to get a point across that Brandy should be up or whatever. And you look for a change of scenery. That's how you do it as a player. You get a new agent to represent you, and that in hopes that, maybe there's a different tactic involved. But see, I look at that and it only means so much. Why would he change an agent now? Is it because he's preparing for the summer, or is he just angry that he thinks and believes he belongs in the NHL right now? Those are the questions, right? But you look at his numbers, Wally, like because this happens to a lot of players. He's not exclusive in this department where, he's a fringe player that in his mind, he believes he should be in the NHL, starts off in the A. Like I've went through that for two years in a row. After playing and finishing 20 games at the NHL level, following season in Columbus, I start off in the American League. I thought I should be in the team, but I wasn't. And I didn't play well enough, I guess, in training camp to earn that spot. And so I've spent a lot of time in the American League that following year. So my point is, look at his numbers right now. I mean, I know it's only been 4 games. He's got no goals, no assists. He's like -5. He's not exactly knocking down the door to get called up, right? And it's not like, and that says a lot with the current thin lineup on defense at the NHL level. So I don't know how you want to follow up those numbers with an argument proving that he belongs up. I know the fan base is eager to have him up here. Wally, I'm at a point now, I'm thinking just call him up and be done with it. It'll shut everybody up. Give him 5 games, throw him in the fire, see how he plays. If he plays well, he sticks. If not, you send him back down. But I know it's more complicated than that. But I'm sick of these Erik Brannstrom debates. I really am. I'm sick of talking about it. Just call him up and get it over with, and let's see how we can do.
Okay, fair enough. So I have a couple of points to that. One is the other night it's 5 games, 0 points. In game 4, I think it is, he got cross-checked basically high. The guy ended up with a pen. He hit the ice and lost 3. Either the stick caught him or he hit the ice, lost 3 teeth. I
saw that.
He did play last night, so I give him some credit for coming back into the line. He took 8 stitches. The Erik Brannstrom debate isn't a debate if the 6 guys or 7 guys in Ottawa were all playing well. And that's the problem, right? So And Erik Brannstrom has been oversold to the Ottawa fan base. They have been sold that he is the next coming of Erik Karlsson, and that he is.
That's all. That's a little dramatic.
No, I covered him arriving in this trade, and I went to Belleville to watch him.
Sorry, you meant initially when he came.
Like this is the guy. Like, we got Erik Brannstrom, who's going to be just basically Erik Karlsson. He's the same size. He's going to fill out. He's going to be. It's going to be great.
Yeah,
well, he's not. And so now the expectation level on Erik Brannstrom is so high that it's tough for him to even just try to work his way in without, if he doesn't have a 3-point night, people are like, well, where's Erik Brannstrom? And when he's not playing, people think, well, he should be in the lineup because he's going to be Erik Karlsson. So somehow they've got to figure out what he is. But we've missed a couple of points here. I'm not of the assumption. I don't think he necessarily should be in the Ottawa Senator lineup. I don't think he's ready for the NHL game. And I'm not sure if he's ever going to be that guy ready for the NHL game. Switching agents tells me, I think he's looking for a change of scenery that doesn't have an Ottawa Senator logo on it.
And you could be right. Here's a good question for you. Because I know there's always an argument that he belongs up here. If the team's on the road, so you've got, you've got first change or whatever, and Thomas Chabot can't play. He can't go out there. Like he's tired. He's too tired to go back out on the ice for a big, important draw. It's a 1-0 game against Edmonton or something. Do you trust Erik Brannstrom in the D zone?
No.
In a 1-0 game with 10 minutes left, would you put him out there?
No. And I see the statistical numbers of analytics that say
I've seen them
generate
too.
stuff.
I know. I think those are a little disingenuous because they were at the end of last year when the team was rolling pretty well.
Yeah.
Now I know I know they're also individual stats. I'm all for this. And by the way, I want to make this clear. I'm all for bringing them up. I'm at a point, as I mentioned earlier, I just get this over with, this experiment. Give him a short, give him 5 games to prove himself or something. I don't know. Wally, who do you take out? Who do you take out?
Well, wait a sec. You said bring him up for 5 games. You want to just give up 5 games, if you will. This is a team trying to win hockey games. And now we're saying, let's experiment with the lineup. Well, you can't do it to the guys who are in the lineup though.
Right. But if they're struggling back there, there's an opening for it. Right. So if you're struggling with your bottom 2 pairs, because I don't believe splitting up, I wanted to address this too. Yeah. I don't believe splitting up Chabot and Zub is the right move. I just don't. I think that you have to think long-term here more than the short term. And first of all, if you split them up, that's not even a guarantee that that little experiment's going to work any better. Right. You're going to make minutes much more difficult again for your prized possession on the back end and Thomas Chabot. And furthermore, if you're thinking long-term, you want those two to develop good chemistry together. Now, I know they've had almost instant chemistry, but getting those reps in on a nightly basis is huge, especially for, year 2, 3, when you're actually starting to run for it. So I don't like that idea where you just got to figure that out. Like Holden, he can defend. He's pretty good back there. He's reliable. So who's a good partner for Nick Holden on that second pairing? That's one of the main questions you have to ask. We all know that Methot and Brown don't work. And I didn't like, people were all over Brown for a couple of big turnovers last game. I agree. It wasn't that great against New York. Made a couple of mistakes as well. But at the same time, it's like, who do you pair on that second pairing? And then who do you have on the back end? And then where does Branstrom fit into the equation?
All right.
I think you just call him up, Wally. You just bring him
up. But before we make Josh Brown out to be the worst hockey player on the face of the earth,
his numbers aren't that bad.
Have you not had a bad hockey game where you've had a couple of turnovers that have led to goals?
And that's what I didn't like about the reaction. Again, Twitter, the problem now is that I feel like we base so many decisions off of Twitter reactions, right? Yeah. Like where these are and I'm on there all the time. I'm fitting into this group of pigeons on Twitter. I'm probably a pigeon too, but I'm saying, I don't know that necessarily represents everybody, right? So people like to complain. A lot of people pick up their phones in the morning and they go, what can I be angry about today? And that's what they do, right? So, and sometimes I'm one of them too. So, I think that we have to understand that I've had games like that where I've thrown a pizza up the middle. And now it hasn't happened often, but it has happened. And people were calling for my head. I think that people are looking for an instant fix back there. And quite frankly, you're not going to get it. Like, we're talking about short-term right now with some of these fill-ins that they brought in. They've got Del Zotto. Some of these guys aren't going to be in the long-term plans. You have to understand that it's not always going to be pretty this year, and once Sanderson rolls in, once JBD comes in, we were talking about some studs, Lassie Thompson, like it's going to come together nicely. So you can go for a short-term fix and go after maybe a serviceable bottom pairing player. What's the point? Is it going to be a far cry from what we already have? Probably not. You know what I mean? So I think patience is the most important word here. It's like, it's not always going to be pretty. The team's going to get shelled some nights. You just have to accept it for this year. And in hopes that your other players that are coming up will be able to fill those spots and positions over the next couple seasons.
All right. Speaking of one of those, Jacob Bernard-Docker, his first AHL, first pro goal last night. He actually had a pair. So good for him.
Yeah,
congrats to him.
Yeah.
Okay. I've always been under the assumption, and I've watched this for years, it's tough to come and stick 18, 19, 20-year-old defenseman right into the lineup. And I'm thinking of Jake Sanderson.
Absolutely.
People always thought he's got to get some reps at the AHL level or whatnot. Are we banking way too much on Jake Sanderson all of a sudden to show up and be Zub or Chabot in the lineup here? All of a sudden it's great. And he's plus 25 by the 3 games into the season.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that because, and I'm guilty of it, right? Like where I'm like, well, yeah, let's just wait. We've got Sanderson coming in. We have, everything will just be fine. It's like, no, it's still going to take him probably a year or two at least to figure out. Like Shane Pinto is a good example to use, right? Where very mature for his age, but he still gets hurt. Is that because he's a young player that made a mistake, or was that just a freak accident? That's debatable. But that's an example of a player that physically and mentally needs to mature a little more to understand the ins and outs of the games. Like, you're playing against some really big, strong dudes now, and you're going to get thrown around if you put yourself in a compromising situation. So you obviously don't want these things to happen to any of the young players that are coming up, but they do happen. Would getting a little bit of seasoning down in the American League help that? Maybe a little bit. But I'm always in the belief that if you have a lights out training camp and you're out playing half the other veterans, you belong on the team. It's as simple as that. That's why you have tryouts.
Yes.
So do I think that these answers are coming in next season? Not necessarily. I still think if you have an opportunity, Wally, to go after a top 4 D-man and it's there, I think you have to take it. I honestly do. Who's going to be leading that? Obviously, Shabbat's leading the back end, but you still need some more stabilizing guys. Holden is a guy for sure. But if you have an opportunity to go after a top 4 D-man and it's out there and the price is right, I think you go for it. They have the cap space. They've got the assets. At some point, you have to make some uncomfortable transactions. Like, you can't just hoard all your picks. You can't just hoard all your prospects, and think that it's just going to develop perfectly over time, right? So those are all very difficult decisions that Pierre's going to have to make. But you're right. I love that you bring that up. Sanderson isn't necessarily the answer. Like, he's not going to come in and change the culture or the back end of this team. It's going to take a couple years.
Yeah, and I have no idea if Jake Sanderson's going to be Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes.
He might be.
He may very well be. But the typical progression isn't to be all of a sudden this dominant player that steps in from college and starts
especially on
throwing
defense.
Up points. That's all I wanted to say. Also, do you have you ever had a 4-minute shift?
Oh, what's funny? Where were we? I was playing with Columbus, and I don't know what it was. We were having a pretty decent year, but we were playing in Philly, and was it Gord Murphy? I'm trying to remember my D coach, but anyway, in any case, the game was ending, and I was kind of pissed off. I don't know why I was mad, but we weren't doing very well. And we weren't having a great game. And I think they had sat me earlier on. So there's like 4 minutes left in the game. And I'm like, F it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to stay out there. This is my way of protesting. I'm just going to stay on the ice. And I'm not an offensive D-man by any means, right? So it's hard to stay on the ice for more than 2 minutes if you weigh more than 230 pounds, which I probably did at the time. Wally, I'm not kidding when I say this. I think my shift was like 3.5 minutes long. It was almost like farcical. Like the bench was laughing at me and we were getting blown out of the water. And I stayed out there for the rest of the game. Coaching staff, nobody said a word to me. And I just went on my merry business. And I think if anything, the coaches appreciated it because no one said a word. And the next game I was back to playing 20 plus minutes a night. So sometimes I can understand. In this case with Shabbat, there was a legitimate reason, and the coaches actually wanted him out there for that long. But man, to play for 3 minutes and manage the puck the way he does and skate the way he does and do it several times is incredible. And that goes back to our original conversation, Wally, like that, where you need depth because you can't rely on a player to play that much. I'm sorry, but that's going to lead to an injury at some point. I'm calling it now. If that kid keeps playing 30 plus, I mean, obviously he's not playing 30, but he's playing more than 27 minutes a night.
Yeah.
At some point, that can cause an injury, and you're going to get a little lazy. You're going to forget, you're going to be out of position. You're going to put yourself in an awkward spot, and he's going to get hit, and it won't be nice.
Are you forcing Thomas Shabbat to do too much if you're playing him 28 minutes a night, where he feels he actually has to be the difference maker?
Well, the argument to my point and to what you're saying is that he's not alone. Like, there are other defensemen in the NHL that are playing more than 26 minutes a night. And I mean, I had them somewhere here in my little booklet, but there's a handful of them. And, guys like Seth Jones, Letang, Makar.
Drew Doughty, I think is up there.
Doughty was up there. Hedman. Darnell Nurse. Yeah. Another leader in the league. He's actually, I think, top 3. So once you look at those names, Thomas Shabbat is in that category. So it kind of buries the whole discussion about it because I don't know that those teams are having, or those fan bases are having those discussions as well. We like to fixate on that, I think, because the decor is so thin here. But, DJ was adamant last season that he can handle the minutes. And if Thomas Shabbat wants to play those minutes, he's a big boy now, potential captain on this team. If he had an issue with playing more than 26 minutes on average a night, he has to speak up and say that and verbalize it to his coaching staff. Otherwise, he's fair game. So that kind of buries that whole argument.
Okay, I feel like we're gonna be here for the next half hour. DJ Smith has said each and every year we don't want Thomas Chabot playing 24, 25 minutes. And each and every year, Thomas Chabot's played 26 minutes or more.
But it's funny you say that, because each and every year, DJ Smith also defends the fact that he's playing that much.
Yes,
like
I know.
He defended it last year. So I don't know which way we're going.
So he just says it, and then he totally ignores what he says.
Yeah, well, he's gonna defend it, Wally, right? Like he's gonna defend that decision.
For sure.
And again, like I said, if other guys around the league are doing it, and all the other top D men are doing it, and they tend to thrive playing big minutes, I understand. Now on a back-to-back, that's when you got to protect them a little more. But the problem here, as we all know, is the depth on D, and that's going to be an issue if they don't address it, especially when the games become more meaningful. I don't know that that's an issue though this season. I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. Moving on, Bobby Big Wheel, Drake Batherson, who is known as Bobby around the locker room, hat trick the other day. He's a fifth Sens player in 5 seasons. I have a hat trick. The other one's being Tim Stützle, who a lot of people forget had one against Winnipeg last year. Bobby Ryan, Anthony Duclair, Jean-Gabriel Pajot. Congrats to him, first of all. And if we've talked about him being, potential 30 goal scorer, you were at that game. Do you see enough in Drake Batherson right now that you like as he leads the team in points here with 6?
Yeah, but it's not just Drake Batherson. I mean, I know we're talking about him right now, but that whole top line, I love it. Like that line alone brings people into the building. Like for me, being an analyst or whatever we're doing now, I like to remove myself from being a fan, but I am a fan when I'm watching that line play. The way they move the puck around in the offensive zone, and it's the subtleties, it's the small 10-foot passes, dish and move, and getting it back, and the puck control, and they're all big bodies. Like people forget. And we saw him at our golf tournament. Again, big beauty in Drake Batherson for showing up and playing at the Wally Methot golf tournament. Big plug there. But I didn't realize how tall he was. Like he's a big boy, and so you have the 3 of them. Norris is a machine off the ice. Brady Tkachuk is a tank. That's a big line, a big heavy line that protects the puck really well in the offensive zone. So they use puck protection along those walls so well. They're really good at making those little dish passes and then opening up space and getting to the net. And when you have a plow horse like Brady Tkachuk that opens up so much room for them around that net front, he just kind of spreads, moves the tides, if you will. And I just hope they keep that line together. I know they will right now. I hope it stays together, because for the next couple of years, they're only going to get better. Yeah. They're going to learn each other's tendencies even more. They're already there, in my opinion, but they're only going to get better with age because they're still very young, as you know. So to me, they all complement each other great. That's a big reason for Batherson getting 3 goals, for example, and on any given night when any of them are getting success. They're so cohesive. They mesh really well. And I think a lot of that is just the coaching staff being able to trust them now for a couple seasons playing together. It's going to work into their benefit.
Here's why I think that line stays together, is because nobody's given them a nickname. And as soon as you nickname the line, it tends to always get broken up. So they just have to leave it alone. If you take the initials,
I don't even know what. Yeah,
you get JBD. So I don't know if Jacob Bernard Docker is willing to give that up yet. So
no.
There is no nickname. Maybe Craig will figure one out later. Okay, so along those lines, you got Batherson with 4 goals now, and Chris Tierney with 4 to tie for the team lead. Norris has got 3. Paul has 2. Then Ennis and Formanton each have 1. 13 of their 15 goals have been scored by 4 guys. Is this once again leading to one of the first things you said off the top, lack of depth?
Maybe. Yeah, a little bit for sure. But again, we're talking about such a small sample size of games that this isn't really just exclusive to the Ottawa Senators. We're seeing it with a lot of other teams too, right? Where, you've got a select number of players that are contributing at the moment, but that can change really quickly. So I'm not going to put too much weight into that. Do I think they are thin? Yeah, of course I do. I mean, if they weren't, they'd be vying for a Stanley Cup right now, or they'd be in the conversation, at least in the playoffs. They're not there yet. And there's a reason for that. They're thin. They're thin up front on those bottom 2 lines. They're thin on the back end on their bottom 2 pairings. They're thin in goal right now to a degree. There's an argument to be made there, right? Those are the inconsistencies that I've been talking about. 1 week, Matt Murray looks great. Anton Forsberg looks fantastic. The next week, Matt Murray gets hurt. Forsberg looks really kind of shaky in that game where he comes in a relief position, which of course was thrown under the bus. Then looks shaky the next game too. Yeah. So, it's like, we're going to overanalyze this group every week, but at the end of the day, you got to focus in on those key pieces that are here long term. The rest, quite frankly, is all filler until the rest of these prospects can come in and you can insulate the rest of the group with good players. So, there's a lot going on right now, Wally. I think as a whole, we have to understand that this is all part of the process. They're not going to win a ton of games, but you want to see the good players progress and grow.
I really wish you'd read the rundown before we start the show. Goaltending is the next topic, Meth. Just wait a second.
Sorry, man.
So I was going to say Brady Tkachuk, 3 games, 0 goals. What have you seen about him? And here's my prediction. I know you're the smart guy in this show. I think Brady Tkachuk, drafted in Dallas, will score in Dallas his first goal of the season.
Oh, that's bold, but I like that. I like that pick. If there's a place to do it, that would be there, I guess. But with Brady, I love the way he's played so far. He hasn't been a topic really, like we haven't highlighted on him too much because he's kind of been back and forth, but that's a good thing. He missed all the training camp. He's still catching up here. He's catching up to the rest of the group, but he hasn't been a liability. So that in itself is huge. Like the fact that he's been able to come in and just kind of go back to business as usual. He's still engaging. He's already got a fight. I don't know. How many points does he have right now? I know he had one in that first game. Has he had one since? Do we know?
I got to look it up. I can't remember.
I'm putting you on the spot here, but in any case, none of that matters. There you go. The point is, and that's not a big deal. The point is, he looks pretty good and he's only going to get better. So, when you miss that much time and you're catching up to the group, it's the fatigue, the mental fatigue. You're not used to the grind. You missed all the training camp. Your timing is going to be off a little bit. I think we're going to see him really kind of come into his own now. I think from what I understand, he felt a lot better in that last game and his legs look better. He wasn't falling around as much. Brady kind of slips and slides a little bit and he's on his knees a lot in the games. It's part of his shtick and his game and so his style of play, but he was, he looked better. He looked a little less tired in his last game. I'll say that. And that's only going to get better. He's going to start getting his wind and his conditioning back and a little bit more chemistry with his line mates. I'm not even remotely concerned about Brady Tkachuk. He is what he is. He's not a guy that's going to score 40 goals, at least not now. He drives that line in other ways with energy, finishes his checks. He's hard to play against a net front. He's doing those things right now. I've been very happy with his 3 games so far.
Last topic, even though you wanted to discuss it earlier. Which goalie do you want in an elimination game right now? A healthy Matt Murray, Anton Forsberg, or Philip Gustafsson? This is the one game you get into the playoffs. Who are you tapping?
Well, I think I react a little dramatic there. I don't think it's a really hard decision to make. I think Matt Murray's still your guy. I mean, and based off of what I've seen when he has been on, like in that, I can't say this enough. In that Rangers game, up until the epic collapse at the end, he was really good. He was good. He and I don't say that lightly. He was tracking the puck really well. He looked very confident and composed. So you got to go with Matt Murray. I don't think that's a question. I think you do. And I mean that. I think, well, listen, you can go with Anton Forsberg or Gustafsson. That's fine. But to me, based off of what I'm seeing now, had you asked me this question last season, I'd probably have given you a different answer. But I love the way he played in training camp. I don't love the way he can get hurt all the time. I don't love that. That's got to be really frustrating for the group because it's like, if you're a player thinking like, oh, here we go again, he's hurt again. What's it this time? I hate saying that because I'm a big fan of his, but that's just the way players think. I'm sorry. But when you're putting in the time and you're grinding and you're putting your body on the line, blocking shots, doing work, you want to know that your goalie's got your back as well. So, you start asking questions when he's getting hurt every so often. And that's just the nature of the beast in the NHL. So I still think Matt Murray's the guy though. Having said all that, I got to be fair here. I don't think you can go with Forsberg and keep a straight face, Wally, based off of what we've seen so far. But let's hear it.
Gustafsson.
Okay. Gus the bus. Okay.
So I haven't liked the way Forsberg has responded a little bit here. And again, he was never really pegged as this fantastic goalie. They picked him up off waivers. He bounced around the league. Yep. I like the way Philip Gustafsson has come along. And I think, you know what? I would put my chips on Philip Gustafsson to take to the net.
Okay, that's fine. Listen, this is so debatable. And these friggin' goalies, like they're so weird to begin with and unpredictable that I'm not an expert when it comes to this. We need to have a goalie come on, like a Jamie McLennan to break this down, because it's like, my reasoning and thinking is, if you're a goalie and I'm the defenseman, I need you to communicate to me. I don't want you to be a mime back there. I need you to talk. Like Craig Anderson was good for that. Communicate, because your partner's not always going to be there to do that. And stop the puck. If you can stop the puck and you can talk to me, I'll trust you to be back there and do your job. Otherwise, send somebody else in.
Okay. Last night I saw one of the strangest goalie issues I've ever seen. I don't know what you call them, but mannerisms. This is a 14-year-old, because that's playing against my son. He would skate every whistle to the end, to the boards along the goal line with his blocker, tap the line on the boards, the goal line with his blocker. He would just bend over and tap it and then skate back to the net. I've never in my life seen this.
Well, some goalies do go back and forth on timeouts and stuff. Well, he's out there.
He bent over to tap.
He's a goalie. They're weird.
It's bizarre.
They're totally and that's a superstition. I guarantee you, that's just a superstition. He just does it because for him it works. And now in fairness, because I know I like to chirp goalies all the time, it's such a difficult and mental position, as you know, Wally, that they're all going to have their quirks. Like I remember some of the goalies that I played with, and some of the stuff they do like prior to the game in the dressing room, and it's all timed. It's down to a science, their routines. It's like, you just stay away from them, let them do their thing, and don't talk to them. Don't ever talk to them. Like, don't try to get in their heads. Don't try to make them comfortable. Just leave them the hell alone and let them do their job. That's what I've learned over my career.
I can't remember right now. I don't think so. You didn't play with Martin Gerber, did you?
No.
Yeah, he was different. And Arturs Urbe was.
They're all different. Yeah, and when you think that one's normal, he goes ahead and does something weird. Like Andy. Andy was one of my best friends in hockey, right? Unbelievable goalie. Pretty relaxed for the most part, but you couldn't really talk to Andy much on game day because he was so bloody serious, unless he was a backup. Like, you'd get two Craig Andersons. The backup version of Craig Anderson was like this relaxed, like happy-go-lucky, like joking with you before the game when you're warming up. And then the playing version of Craig Anderson, no, you can't talk to him. You couldn't talk to him. And meanwhile, Craig Anderson builds simulators and computers and like, he's just, you know what I mean? Like, he's still out there. And that's a guy that I thought was more level-headed than most. So I'll leave it at that.
Funny. Craig Anderson, by the way, and I meant to bring this up when we did the interview, is over the boards interviews we always do with the players, right? They come over, they step onto the ice during pregame skate and or warm up, and they come and chat. Andy did one with us when he was starting. I've never to this day I've ever had another goaltender, but the starting goalie came over to do an interview. He's like, I want to try this. And we have a picture.
Good for him.
Somewhere. Yeah. Good for him. Andy.
I love that.
Anyway. All right. Those are the headlines. As always, I'm right. Coming up next, Ray Ferraro is our interview guest in the Whitewater Chat. You're watching the Wally and Methot Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Wally and Methot Show. Time now for the chat, brought to you by Whitewater Beer. Go to shopwhitewater.ca. 15% off using the Wally Methot coupon code. Basically, let's stock up for the hockey season, shall we? To the pre-scout now, brought to you by BEI, Bonnechere Excavating Inc., BonnechereExcavating.com, helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. Still waiting for a chance to go drive an excavator so I can pretend I'm on Gold Rush, the TV show, if you haven't seen it. Ray Ferraro is our guest today. Played 18 years in the National Hockey League, 1,258 games. That, by the way, ties him with the pocket rocket, Henri Richard, for 83rd most games played in NHL history, 408 goals, 898 points. And he played for 6 teams: the Whalers, the Islanders, the Rangers, the Kings, the Thrashers, and the Blues. A couple of those don't even exist anymore. 3 world championships, if I've got this all right. And then, of course, he's had a full other career as a broadcaster, which started, by the way, at ESPN, and now he's back full circle with them again this year, the worldwide leader in sports. He's also half of the show of Ray and Dreg's podcast, which is wildly popular. He does everything. He's also the voice of EA Sports Hockey. Ray Ferraro, I don't have enough time to list it all, so just welcome to the show.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks, boys. It's been look, I dreamed of playing in the NHL. I got to do it. And then I just kind of stumbled into this. You know, somebody said, hey, would you like to broadcast? And I'm like, yeah, but I hadn't even really thought of post-career yet, you know, and then it's 20 years. Like, man, I can't believe it, honestly.
Like, you did it while you were playing. You started when you were still a player.
Yeah.
Did anybody have any issues with you going on the air?
Well, nobody, not issue, but I heard from a lot of guys while I was on the ice. And like one of my favorite stories was, so I had a guy named Barry Sachs at ESPN was really he was a big Ranger fan. He was the head of talent, the on-air people at ESPN too. And I got traded from the Rangers to the Island, or the Rangers to the Kings. And of course the Kings weren't in the playoffs. And so he said, hey, would you like to come and broadcast? I said, well, I've never done it. He said, yeah, I think you'd be good at it. But so, he'd watch me do a bunch of interviews. And so I started. So the next year I'm playing, and there's a scrum by the Detroit Red Wings net. And if you remember Yuri Fisher, he was like, Yuri's 6'5", he's a monster. And he's got me pinned over the back of the net. And, I was probably like chirping away, or like I was going to do anything, right? Like, what's he going to do? And so he's got me pinned on the back of the net, and Steve Yzerman skates by and he says, hey, Ray, why don't you analyze that? And he just kept on going. And I was stuck on the back of the net till Fisher decided to let me off, because I wasn't going to fight my way out.
That's outstanding.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yuri Fisher played in Gatineau Olympique, or the Hall Olympique, I think, at the time, a long time ago, Major Junior. Ray, where's the mustache? Like, what happened to the mustache?
It's in the 80s, right where it should stay. And it was a solid look, though, eh? Like,
it's great.
I thought it was really great, and then I look back at some of those pictures, and I'm like, well, I guess it was okay, but it was. But so on our team in Hartford, though, like Joel Quenneville was there, like best mustache ever.
Yeah.
And then Dave Tippett was there. You look at Dave Tippett now, and he doesn't have a mustache, and so it's hard to imagine. Go back and look. Like, but the greatest mustache of that team was Dave Babbage. Like, Babs could shave at 9 o'clock and have a mustache by 11:30. It was like amazing. So I was like in 4th or 5th place, but the stash was I had a stash before, or I thought I did when I was like 17 and 18, but it wasn't really anything. And then I started again when I was 20, and I kept it till the goatee sort of became fashionable, I guess.
So will you ever just cleanly shave then?
I did for a while, and I thought I looked younger. And then there's nothing that's going to make me look younger anymore. So I
can't picture Ray without a beard. I don't even know what you look like without it.
It's not good. It's not good. And now I think the best part of the beard is you don't have to shave. Like, honestly, I'm like, I think Cammie likes it, like, she doesn't say she doesn't, but I'm like, I don't have to shave. So like, I'm a fan.
Ray, when I came on prior to the Worlds, and Wally obviously knows all about this too, but I was told immediately that the higher ups didn't like beards or stubble. So I was clean shaven for that.
Yeah.
Is that not something that was pretty consistent throughout TSN, or is that just kind of depending on who's coming up?
Well, I don't know. Like, when I started, so I was at Sportsnet, and I must have had a goatee at that time. And then in 2008, I moved to TSN, and nobody said anything. So maybe they didn't notice. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't, or
you're just too valuable and they don't want to risk pissing you off.
Well, put it this, I signed a 1-year contract when I started. So I think they weren't so sure. They were like, let's see if you can get through the first year, and then we'll see where it goes.
I was told either clean shaven or full beard, but I couldn't have it in the middle. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I get to that point? Because I'm always on camera within the first 6 weeks, and I can't grow a beard. So I had to figure that out.
And but hang on, 6 weeks. So if it's taking you 6 weeks, then clean shaven's the best choice.
I was going to say, maybe a beard isn't for you.
So I came onto this when we did the first couple of episodes. I didn't want to shave. Like, I don't want to shave anymore if I don't have to. And people sent like, you got to shave. Like, what is that on your face? You look terrible. So
it's either got to be right in or you can't be halfway. It's a bad
Fair enough.
By the way, time now for Pearls of Wisdom, because you know who does Pearls of Wisdom. John Perlberg, who does stats for you. We get him on every show to help with our big guests. And he breaks down the fun stuff that's happened perhaps sometimes in your career. So Here now is Pearls of Wisdom, brought to you by sportsinteraction.com. Go to sportsinteraction.com/Wally Methot. Get in on all the action. They are Canada's odds maker. Okay. Your 408 goals scored were on 124 different goaltenders. 39 of those goalies, let's just say you helped put in the Hockey Hall of Fame. 17 goals scored on the greatest goalie of all time. If you didn't know, the most you scored was on Patrick Roy. And then this is my favorite. You once scored 4 goals on 4 shots in a playoff game against Washington. Only 2 other players in NHL history have scored 4 goals on 4 shots in a playoff game: Dino Ciccarelli and Jean-Gabriel Pageau of the Ottawa Senators.
Wow,
that
good company.
Is Pearls of Wisdom.
So, okay. So the thing on WA, we were in the same division. So we used to play 8 times a year.
Yeah.
And I will say there was no goalie I liked scoring on more than Patrick. Because he was so great. And 2, because I just loved like being a pebble in his shoe, right? Like I was always around the front of the net. And I loved scoring on him. I mean, I love scoring on everybody, but he was a little different. I'd like to think, the 4 goals was we lost 6-4. I got all 4 goals that night. It was an amazing run in the playoffs, but you'd like to think you would have got another shot somewhere along the line, right? But I didn't shoot a lot. I don't, like Dino Ciccarelli was a high volume shooter. JG Pageau, I wouldn't say is that. That's not really, his game is built around other things. I never shot the puck a lot, honestly, because I didn't have a very good shot. So I was close to the net. My shots were mostly from 5 to 7 to 10 feet. There was one year I led the league in shooting percentage. I had 27 goals on like 90 shots or 88 shots or something like this. Brett Hull was second, and he had 86 goals on like 7 million shots. It was like, when you look at the 2 things together, you're like, one is not like the other, right? But I just didn't shoot it a lot.
That's weird awesome. That you think that you're not and then Gord always brings it up on every broadcast about how you scored 120 goals in Brandon, I think. Like, how do you not think that you're a goal scorer?
No, I was a scorer. I couldn't shoot. I honestly, I'll tell you one thing that kind of grinds my gears a bit when I watch the players today is the ones that don't realize the goals, the money, like the money goal is right on the inside of the D. The problem is you got to go through somebody like Meth to get there. And some guys just aren't willing to do that because he's not going to let you get there. And you've got to, you've got to view that real estate as it's the most important real estate on the ice. And so you'd go in there and you get knocked in the nose and punched in the face and a stick comes up but that's where the goals are. You're not beating the guys from 30 feet very often anymore, unless you can shoot it like Ovi or Austin Matthews. Like, you're not. Look where Brady Tkachuk scores his goals. He's not going to score 35-foot goals. His dad made a career out of getting his big ass right in front of the net and fighting to get in there. That's where the goals are, and it grinds my gears when guys don't do that.
Well, Ray, imagine you playing in today's game now with the leeway that you forwards get. Like, you can't, like, my last couple of years, I still remember those last 2 years in Dallas, they were starting to crack down on it more. You can't really do a whole lot at net front anymore. Whereas back in the day, like 90s, late 80s, mid 90s, you could just lean on players all you wanted as a D-man and make it miserable for you guys. But now, I mean, they can have their way, and it's like no one's really contesting it anymore.
So, for example, if you were playing back then, you could stand in front of the net and cross-check the forward.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much as many times as you want. So I'd try and get in there. And so, like, I couldn't stand in there and stay there. You had to get in and get out because the guys were too big. So you'd be in front of the net, and Darian Hatcher, for example, he's 200 and whatever pounds. He's 6'5". He'd be cross-checking you. And after about the third one, the ref would yell from the corner, "That's enough." And you're like, that's enough now? Like 15 seconds ago when we all used to have, I don't even know if the guys use them anymore. We had I had stitched onto the base of my shoulder pads,
Yeah.
basically like rib protectors, because you'd get in there and it would just be like cross check, and I was little, so they were coming down. It hurt. But if I was going to score, damn, that's where you had to go.
That's where the money was made. Yeah. Yeah. Some players still rock those. Not a lot, but few. I have seen it where they have like an extension at the bottom of that rib area, and it kind of protects your kidneys and those sides. Yeah.
Because you guys were always good at it too. You'd kind of, I don't think you were aiming,
right in underneath.
Right there. Boom, right over the pants. And you're like, God, that hurts.
Can't do it anymore.
Did you at 1,258 games, 18 years, did you want to retire at the end, or were you hoping still to play?
You know what? My knees were telling me it was time. I actually, just over a year ago, I got my left knee, I got a full knee replacement.
Wow.
I was just like, it just wasn't happening anymore. There's a great line from Larry Murphy, the Hall of Fame defenseman. He said that it used to be 4 strides or 2 strides from the dot to the corner. And then he saw himself on video and it was 4. And he was like, you know what? It's time to go. So there was a couple things going on. For me, my health was one. 2 was I had just gotten divorced, and my ex-wife was moving to Vancouver with our boys. And I was like, you know what? I can't go somewhere for 1 year. I kind of had my time, and I would have liked to play, man. I loved it. Matt, I don't know. You must miss some of it. I just missed being around. I missed the competition, you know, but there just became, for you too, there became a time you're just like, your body says, can't do it anymore. And it was time.
Yeah.
Well, Meth gets to work with me now. Like, it's not all terrible.
What a bonus.
Talk about opposite end of the spectrum, right? Like really enjoying my life to borderline hating it. So yeah, here we are.
And just think though, the best part about the pandemic here is you can do it remotely.
Yeah, true.
Otherwise,
so I don't have to share the same room with Wally.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
I'm coming over next week to set it up.
Hey, I wanted to ask Ray a question. Ray, you said you just had a full knee replacement?
Yes.
Like how long ago are we talking here?
Last September 24th.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so how's the recovery then? Like, can you still do anything on it? I'm just curious because you're a young athletic guy. Like, you know what I mean? You don't usually
running's no good. Guys. Running's no good. Not yet. I hope.
Could you run if you wanted to? Could you?
Yeah.
Could you like?
Yeah, but it's just not. It's not the right thing. I got to the point where I'd play. Like, I love golf. I play a lot. I'd get to like at our course, the 15th hole is a dog leg right, and it's uphill. And as soon as I'd walk up that hill every round, I'm like, I might have to stop today.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, you know what? I love to do this too much, so I went and got, I got a couple of doctors to look at it, and they're like, surgically, there's nothing else to do. There's nothing there. Arthritic you got arthritic changes all the way through there. So I go get the knee replaced, which, by the way, is like, it's literally a hinge that's in there. Like, I saw the part and I'm like, I was less enthused. I thought it was going to be more complicated looking.
Yeah, like more.
It's just like a ball, and it just goes goes up and down. So after about 6 months, though, honestly, I was like, why did I do this? Like, I'm no better. It took me longer than I thought it was going to take. And but the surgeon kept saying it's a year. And I'm telling you, like, within a couple of weeks of that year time, I went, oh my God, I don't feel it anymore.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay.
So it was really, it took some time, but I'm happy now that I got it done for sure. Good.
Can you bike sorry, I know. I'm only asking because I'm dealing with this now, and at some point I'll have to get it done. Right. So that's why I'm
you know what? You can bike. I lift. Just the going downhill. You have. I'm not quite there yet, and as you get older, the last thing you want to do is the training to get stronger. I work out so I don't get fat.
Yeah, it's just maintaining, right?
Yeah, I always say to Cammie, I'm like, I'm gonna go do my workout, such as it is, But downhill is a problem because you have to strengthen your hamstrings to hold your knee, but the pain goes away. Like, after the initial part, the pain goes away. I'm functional to do things I could never do. I was for example, I was coming down the stairs and I'd always have to come sideways.
Yeah.
I couldn't step straight forward anymore.
Yep.
And then one day I came down the stairs and I was like, I got to the bottom and I was like, whoa, I walked straight down the stairs. I just forgot.
Oh, that's great.
And it was amazing to do that.
Cool. Right on. Go ahead, Wally. Sorry, man. I'm just pre-planning all my stuff here.
You know what? Maybe call him after the show and have a chat.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
So, speaking of injuries, you played 2 stints in the AHL. One was in Binghamton, which we all know here is in Ottawa, used to be the farm team of the Binghamton Senators, but you played for the Whalers. The other one is you played 1 game for the Capital District Islanders, which I think was a team that existed for 1 year in Troy, New York. There's a whole lot around it. But A, do you have a jersey from the Capital District Islanders? And B, why did you play 1 game?
I do not, because I wanted to get in and out of there as fast as I could. So the game was in Springfield, and I broke my leg in late November of 1992. I got shoved into the boards on a breakaway in Chicago Stadium. I broke my leg and dislocated my ankle. Actually, funny part, well, not funny. So back in the day, the stadiums weren't the same as they are now. So they got, put me on the stretcher, and they wheeled you out into the concourse where the ambulances are. And I was being wheeled out like there was people everywhere. Guys walking by with a beer and a pizza, and they were doing their thing. So I have surgery. They fixed fixed the broken leg and the dislocated ankle. 3 months later, I'm ready to play. And so the Islanders want me to go play a couple of games in the American League with Capital District. And so the first one was in Springfield. I go down there, I get to the rink, and I'm like, wow, I haven't been in a rink like this in a long time. And so the game starts, and it is mayhem. Like, there's all these young kids, they're running all over the place. And I'm like, I haven't played in 3 months. I'm like, I'm going to get killed. Like, I'm going to get, and the fans, I'm starting the game. So I take my helmet off, and these fans are giving it to me. You suck. Look where your career is. And I wanted to yell back, I'm only here for today. But, you can't, it wasn't going to happen. So after the game, I'm like, I can't do this again. So I drive back to Long Island. The Islanders play a home game the next day, and I walk in the room, and Al Arbor's, the legendary Al Arbor, my favorite coach, just a great man, says, what the hell are you doing here? And I said, Al, I called myself back up. I can't do that again. He goes, well, you better not suck. And then I started to play with the Islanders, and I sucked. And because 3 months is a long time. I'm going north, and the puck's going south. So I play 3 games. Now there's 3 games left before the playoffs. And we have a home game and then a road game the next day. So I'm in the stick room getting my sticks ready for the road game. And I hear Al say to the trainer, go get me the seagull, which is what he called me. He said if I wasn't squawking, I was shitting. And so he says, go get me the seagull. So I'm like, oh my God, he's not happy. So I go hide. So maybe Al will calm down. And trainer finds me. He's like, hey, Ray, Al wants to see us. I'm, oh, great. So I go in there. I get like a foot inside the door. And he says, Seagull, you got 3 games to get going, or you'll be sitting with Claire. Now, Claire was his wife. And he says, and she's been in the same damn seats for 22 years. And so I'm standing there, and I'm like, I don't even really know what to say. And he goes, well, do you have anything else? And I go, no. And then I left. The cool part about it was Al was pissed at me for not being ready. The playoffs were coming up, and he was saying, look, you got 3 games. If you can't get your game in order, I'm going to have to use somebody else. But I want you, this is what I took out of it. I want you to play. You got 3 games to get going. Well, I scored a goal 1 game. I scored a goal 2 games later. Then I got 13 goals in 18 games in the playoffs. But Al gave me the chance to be successful. But he delivered it in a way that I still laugh at to this day.
I grew up an Islander fan, by the way, from the 80s. I named all my stuffed animals after the Islanders. My big blue dog was Billy Smith.
Oh, was he mean?
Yeah.
Because Smitty, you were not hanging around the crease when Smitty was there.
That's why I used to have a black Coho goalie stick was for Billy Smith. And I used to just kind of swing it every once in a while that someone would come through my crease. And I'm like, I don't know, whatever I am, 10 and 11. But I loved Billy Smith and the attitude he always brought. Like,
Man,
he seems
what a
pretty
great
gentle
team.
now. Yo,
Yes. Now, have you guys had Noodles on?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Did he tell you the story about when he beat up the mascot?
No,
I can't remember now.
I don't think he did. Did he?
You got to get him to tell you that story, even if it's a drop in, because Billy Smith plays a part in that. Noodles ended up beating up a mascot during a game, and it's on Billy Smith.
Oh my God. Well, how did he not share this with us? This is incredible.
I don't know. This is going to be good at some point.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
You talked about those 18 playoff games. That was, I think, that you got to the Eastern Conference final. You lost to Montreal. Right. You were on fire. Did that one sting the most? But you never got to play in a cup final, which obviously is tough for anybody. Did that one, I guess, sting the most? You got that close?
Yeah, it was so unexpected. Like our team made the playoffs on the last day of the season. And the way the games played out, we missed Pittsburgh and we got Washington. Pittsburgh had won 17 straight games coming into the playoffs. So we're like, this will be great to make it. Geez, we don't want to play those guys. Right? So we played at night in Washington, the first game of the playoffs. Jersey played in the afternoon in Pittsburgh. I think they lost 8-2. And we were going to the rink going, that could have been us. They're too good. So we end up beating Washington. Now we play Pittsburgh. Honestly, guys, there's no way we should have been in the series, and we beat them in game 7 in overtime in Pittsburgh. So now you're starting to believe that you've got a chance. Here's the thing. You win 2 rounds, you're halfway home.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, you think you're way closer. But you still have to win 8 games. We lost 2 games in overtime to Montreal. Our team was like, we had given everything we had to that point. We were out of gas. And it was Montreal's year. Like, I think the Canadians won 10 overtime games that year. Like, how is that even possible? How do you win 10? You only do that if it's your time.
Yeah.
And so we got to the semis. And then you think, you know what? We're not that far. We could do it again next year. Nope. It just
never
doesn't.
seems to work that way, does it?
No. Well, you guys in Ottawa, same thing. Like, you
same thing.
You think you're close. And I think the one example would be you think you're close. You need 1 or 2 parts. They trade Zibanejad for Brassard, and because you think you're close, and you can't wait for Zibanejad to get to what he is now.
Yeah.
But you weren't that close. But when you're in it, you think you are.
You think you are. Yeah, totally.
And the good teams, the teams that do it year after year, man, I got a lot of respect for them because it's so hard. So hard.
Big time.
It no question it is. And so the last question I guess I have on your hockey career, I want to get to your broadcast career, and then of course maybe some travel stories. You seem to create a little bit of controversy, I guess, when you travel. Or are you going to write a book, by the way, on your travel experiences?
I should. The travel stuff, honestly, it happens, and I'm like, I can't even believe it's me that's like this disorganized or disheveled. I think I'm really organized, but clearly I'm not. Like, clearly I'm not. That honestly could be a standalone right there.
And what's interesting, because I've watched you work for a number of years, and one I can remember is 2019 World Championships were in Slovakia. You are in your room for hours at a day, right? You're studying like crazy. Your prep work is second to none. And so I always laugh. I'm like, how can he be like, he knows everything about the Italian men's hockey team. You can't find gate 4.
It is, it's not even an exaggeration. It's stunning how bad I am at this stuff. Like, when Gord I don't know if he told you guys, one time I hadn't done my expenses from October to December, mainly because I keep putting it off because I don't really know how to do it. So we're on a train in northern Finland. It is so dark. It's like we're the only people on the train except for this other couple over on the other aisle. And we're doing my expenses. Gord's showing me how to use a scanner, to download I don't know what I'm doing. I've got a folder full of receipts with no dates on them. He's like, what are you doing? The answer is, I don't know. But that's why poor Gord gets a few free meals a year because I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
I think that's fair. You and Rod Black are the two worst I've heard about receipts. And for those who don't know, TSM would like you to do it every month. Yes,
I like to think I'm better than the stories of Rod. Apparently, Rod was just, you know who else is no good at this? Chris Cuthbert.
Yes. Yes. All of you geniuses are terrible at paperwork.
I laugh at CC because he's worse than me, which makes me feel somewhat empowered, I think.
Have you ever spilled a water bottle on his notes, or is it just him spilling his own water? He's notorious, by the way, for people who don't know. He leaves, for whatever reason, the cap off the water bottle in the booth on his notes, and will likely spill it once every 3 games.
Yes, but he leaves the cap off because he has to take a sip during the play and he doesn't want to unscrew it. However, it's a minefield because as you talk, he moves his arms around.
Hands are everywhere. Yeah.
And so when the water has come across my notes, he always goes, "Oh, sorry, sir. Sorry about that." And your notes are like child crayon. It's like you can't even read any of it. And so you're like, what are you going to do?
It's so good. Last question I wanted to ask you about your playing career. Who's your favorite player and this may not be fair. Who's your favorite player you've played with? Because I know you basically know everybody in the National Hockey League.
Played with, well, for various reasons, it's not always the best player.
Right.
It's just my favorite all-time teammate is Andrew Burnett. Played for 3 years with him in Atlanta. One of the most underrated, funny people on the planet. I'll give you one example of this. We're playing in Atlanta. We're playing in Phoenix. We're getting shut out. Kurt Fraser's our coach. He has a total disdain to be shut out because we're no good and we've been shut out a few times. So he calls a timeout, draws up this play. As we're going out now it's 2-0. There's like a minute and a bit left. We're going out for the face-off in the Phoenix end. And I'm getting ready to go in the draw and Bruno goes, "Razor." And so I go over, I think he's going to tell me something about the play. And he goes, "Chip it in the corner and I'll fall on it. That way nothing bad can happen." I am doubled over because we're minus 30 already on the season. So what do you think happens? I lose the face-off clean as a whistle. It goes D to D. The guy shoots it in the empty net and we get another minus. But he was one of my all-time favorite teammates. Steve Thomas would be another. Funny, tough, beat the hell out of me when he was in Toronto. I was with the Whalers. I thought we're the same size. He wanted to fight. I'll fight him. And then halfway through the fight, I realized he's a middleweight champ of the world. He just pummeled me. It was not even close. But he would be another one for sure.
Did you feel forgotten as a team in Atlanta? What was it like to play for the Thrashers?
Just, you know what? Not on the radar. I'm going to say about the 5th or 6th sport there, because college football, if you've never lived in a college football city, you can't even understand the magnitude of what that is. But one of the first weeks we're there, I was going to take the kids to a high school football game. So the game's at 7:00. We drive down at 6:30. Yeah, good one. There's 5,000 people there. The stands are full. If you don't have tickets, you're not getting in. That's high school football. So
crazy.
So it was the Braves, the Hawks, Georgia Tech, Georgia, high school football. Oh yeah, and then there's this new hockey team. And so and if you're going to draw fans, you have to be decent. We won 14 games the first year. Which I always say is not bad, except there was 82 games. We lost, I think, 60 games. It was unbelievable. If you didn't laugh, you would have cried. We had so much fun on that team because we were so bad. We didn't win for 17 games in a row.
But I heard it was a great place to live. I played against Atlanta a couple times. That's when Evander Kane was there right before they moved back, obviously. I always heard the same thing. The real estate was very affordable. You could buy a beautiful home there, and the guys loved it. It was just not a ton of fan support.
Yeah, it's a terrific place to live. It's not a very easy place to get around. Like traffic wise, it's really difficult. But a lot of that would have all been solved had, like, you wouldn't have minded the traffic if we were good.
Yeah.
Right. People would have gone to the games. They would have. But why are you going to fight traffic to go watch a team lose again?
Exactly. Yeah. Good point.
And that's just the way that's where we were, at that time.
Couple of things about being back in broadcasting. One is one of my favorite stories of you all time, and I mean this, is you got to interview your son Landon playing in the National Hockey League. And I've never actually had a chance to actually talk to you about it. And I think of it now because perhaps Brian Boucher will get a chance with Tyler Boucher for the first round pick of the Senators. So what was that like for you? And because I used to know you would watch on an iPad in the booth or in between the bench if Landon was playing somewhere else. And I totally understand that. So could you focus on that game?
Okay. So the first game I did was about 3 weeks before Landon was with Detroit. So I'm sitting there and like he's warming up. I mean, he's standing like 3 feet from me. I'm like, oh my God, this is so unbelievable. So the game starts, he's on the bench. Like I could literally reach over and pat him on the back. And his first shift, he gets hit in the corner. Second shift gets hit in the corner and he comes away and I'm like, geez, he doesn't look right. Turned out he got hit knee on knee and he had like a strained meniscus. His night was done in 2 shifts. I did the game underwater. I just felt terrible, right? So he comes back. Now he's on waivers because he's going to be, they've got some guys back. Patrick Eves was one. So he goes on waivers, gets picked up by the Bruins. I'm talking to him and he's like, yeah, I got to jump in. They've got a car to take me to Toronto. I'm like, Landon, I'm doing the game in Toronto. Like we hadn't even put it together yet. So now 3 weeks later, I'm doing this game. So now he's in Boston and, I'm so happy for him, right? Proud. And so he plays the first period. Halfway through the second period, our producer, Chris Edwards, says in my ear, we just requested Landon for second period interview. And I'm like, don't do that. And he's like, I mean, he's new and he's like, yeah, too late. We already got him in and he's going to come to you on the bench. I'm like, oh man. And they're like, we think it'll be good. And so Landon comes off the ice. I see him go, the visitor's side there, Mark, like over on that side. And I see him go off and the PR guy stops and I see him say TSN interview. And so Landon goes, yeah, okay. And he points to where I'm standing. So Landon turns and he has this look on his face, like, what the is going on? And so I give him like, get over here. Like, like they got the camera, you got to go. So so however you start an interview, I was like, my brain was spinning and I think I said something like, well, this is odd. It's like we sat at the dinner table 100 times pretending about this or thinking like, I always told him if I interviewed him, my last statement was going to be, did you clean your room? But I thought like, I shouldn't do that. And so anyways, it was so cool. It was so fun. And, that is something we'll always be able to look at and go, you know what, that was really a cool thing.
Yeah.
I hope Bush gets to do it. I hope he gets to do it because, Louis DeBrusk got to do it with Jake and you think what it's going to be like. And then your son's there in an NHL jersey and he's playing and you're like, man, this is just, I'm so proud.
Incredible.
Yeah. It was so great.
Yeah. Cause is that one moment that almost eclipse your entire 18-year career, right? Just to see your kid do that.
You know what? When you see your kids do something and be successful at it, it trumps everything that you've done. I mean, I had an awesome run. I just loved it. Like I dreamed of playing in the NHL, like literally every day of my life. And then all of a sudden I was there and watching Landon do it was better than all of that.
Wow.
It's so cool. Now you're back on ESPN where you started. Does it feel almost, and you're still doing TSN for those people who don't know, you're doing the Leafs World Juniors. Are you still doing World Championships or is that out?
Worlds are out.
Okay.
I'll be doing playoffs then.
Okay. So now you're back. Does it feel like everything's new again kind of thing?
It does. It feels strange. It feels like your senses are sparked a bit because it's just a little different in 6 or 7 different ways, just enough to go, yeah, this isn't the usual thing that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm certainly, I'm not working with Gord. I was thinking the other day, I bet you I've done, man, over 1,000 games with Gord.
Yeah.
Now it must be. I mean, we do 100 a year. By the time we do the World Juniors and the World Championships and the 50 games that we do for TSN, maybe it's not 1,000, maybe it's, I don't know, 700. But I know when Gord's going to lay out. I know he knows when I'm going to babble away at something too long. He knows that. And so like, it's so comfortable now. Like I've worked 2 games with Sean McDonough and I worked the other day with Steve Levy, and it's totally different, but it's invigorating and it's really cool. And I'm going to work, I'm going to get to work. Sorry, Mark, I'm going to get to work the Stanley Cup final this year. And that's really cool. I've wanted to do that.
Yeah. And that must take time to pick up on cues. Like, you're talking about Gord there for a second. How long does that take to develop that kind of chemistry? Obviously it takes a while, but I'm assuming, you're working with some pros right now as well. They're really good in their craft. Like, does that take time to get that familiarity there to pick up on each other's cues? Yeah.
Yeah. Dozens of games for sure.
Yeah.
Because, he might have, he being whomever your play-by-play partner is, would have sometimes they take a pause, but it's just to let it breathe. Sometimes they're taking a pause so you can jump in. And until you do it a few dozen, 20 times, you can't tell that apart.
Yeah.
And now, like, I can tell when, and it's also going to be a little bit easier right now at ESPN. I'm beside the play-by-play guy. The play-by-play guy at TSN, I'm downstairs.
Yeah.
So
you're way up
like,
above,
so like when Sean or Steve is going to take a break, they just look. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. Well, with Gord, it has to be through feel. And every once in a while, you kind of step on each other's toes a bit. But
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
So like, has that happened? So has it happened?
It sucks. And you know what else sucks is when I think I've got a chance to jump in and somebody throws, like it's a scrum on the boards and like nothing's happening. And so I think there's time to say something. And then all of a sudden the guy throws it from the boards, hits a guy's skate and goes in the net. And I'm talking like that pisses you off because it should not happen, but it just did.
Yeah.
And you gotta go, oops.
That happened to me. Yeah.
Brutal, isn't it?
You come back from break and you're like, okay, you got 20 seconds off the face off to say something smart and intelligent. And then all of a sudden the play starts early. And it happened in Dallas. I'll never forget. And Gord's patiently waiting for me to shut up. And I'm telling some eloquent story of however this kid was born in somehow some small town.
Right.
Boom, in the net. And I'm about mid-sentence to say whatever is about to, the cliche or the climax of this whole entire story. And I'm like, Gord?
Yeah. Gord, clean that mess up, would you? Clean that mess up.
He was, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, Gord. And you can see it.
Yeah. Oh, I describe it as this, is that oftentimes that you've got something to say and you're looking for the off ramp. Like when you're driving, you know, you have to exit and you see the off ramp, but the traffic's not letting you get off. And pretty soon now you're by the off ramp and you just hope something good is ahead of you. Like I'm hoping there's another off ramp.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm telling myself, honestly, I'm saying, shut up, stop. And I'm like, but I got to finish the sentence. And then the goalie makes a save and you're like, oh, thank God.
Oh yeah.
Like, don't burp up a stinky one there. Like, man, make the save.
I told you we wouldn't keep you long, and I apologize. I need to ask about how Cammie's doing. Your wife, who's a head pro scout with the Seattle Kraken, is having a phenomenal time. I'm assuming, and so much cool things going on. I don't even know how much you two see each other, but what's it been like for her?
It's been well, first of all, for us, we are now, like, the scheduling part is almost the most crucial thing that we do. It's like I got to figure out when she's in town, when she's out of town, when she's got games. Like, for example, she'll be going, the Canucks have their home opener tonight. She's going to the game. Well, that means I got to be here. And also the kids love it because when she goes to the game, because it's DoorDash, it's like there's not much cooking. They're so pumped. Hey, Dad, can we get? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
Because I can't cook.
Yes, every time.
I suck. So we were both down at the home opener, right, on Saturday in Seattle, which, by the way, guys, not even by any exaggeration, it is the greatest sports facility I have ever been in.
Really?
That's amazing.
Bold.
Amazing. Okay. It is, first of all, the seats, they had to build it under that roof because it was a heritage site. So the seats are at such a steep pitch. Everybody feels like they're right over top of the rink. Did you ever play in Key Arena, Mark?
No, but I just thinking of the old Forum when my dad used to take me there, how steep it was up top. Like, it was terrifying. Yeah.
So the roof is there. You can see, like, there's this windows at one end and it's on street level. That's where the rink used to be. Well, the rink is now 50 feet below that. And you just look at it and you go, well, how did the other rink fit in here? And the facilities are amazing. Like, okay, for example, you want to go buy a beer anywhere, any other rink. You walk in, you get in line, show your ID, you get the beer, it takes you 5 minutes, 7 minutes, you get back to your seat. Doesn't happen in Seattle. Put your credit card in the door as you, like, in the entrance to the food area. You have your thumbprint, so they take because for your ID. You walk in, it's grab and go. You just grab it and walk out. Charges your card. You go to get food. Their goal is that you can get food and get back to your seat and not miss a face-off. You walk in, you hold your phone in your hand over your head. You go through the scanner, scans everything else to make sure you don't have stuff you shouldn't have going in. Right in front of you is the scanner. You turn your phone around, you scan your ticket, you're in. There's no line.
See, like, and that makes the experience so much better, right? Like, that's what they need. Obviously, they need that a lot of places, but that's been an issue here in Ottawa, Ray. Like, lately, especially the concessions, people have been bitching about that. So,
I mean, and so it's all technology now that's being developed. So now, of course, we're going to have to show vaccination status to get in. So that Vax card that we'll all eventually sort of kind of have, I guess, whenever the federal government gets on it, is you'll show your Vax card, you'll show your ticket. They'll be connected, however, and then you're in.
Yeah, that's huge.
Like, because just think those poor people that are having to do that on the way in. Oh man, everybody's fumbling around with their phones, and you got to show you.
It takes forever.
Yeah, and it sucks. It's okay now. Just imagine that in January.
I know.
And you're out there with your kids, and you're like, man, people aren't going to go because they're like, I freeze my ass off just to get into the building.
Yeah.
In Seattle. In November, it's going to pour rain for 4 months. And those people are not going to wait to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, you know what? The new building that's opening up in Brooklyn, or no, I'm sorry, not in Brooklyn, in Belmont, the New York Islanders, built by the same group, Oak Valley Group. It's going to be the same thing.
Wow.
Everything, it's so cool. So back to Cammie, scouting. She's just completing a children's book. Which is, I'm so proud of. It's so awesome. It's going to be ready to go very quickly. She's an amazing mom, super busy. The cool part is for 10 years, she put her career on the back burner to be mom. That was first and foremost. She decided, okay, I think I'm ready to maybe see what there is in the hockey world. I think she was surprised how ready the hockey world was for her to come back. And it's really cool to see because she's been a trailblazer her whole life. It's just her life, but she's been a trailblazer and she's doing it again. And she does it with grace and class. And I mean, I don't know what the hell she thought here, but that this was a decent idea. But I'm really happy for her.
She's a saint, Ray. She's a saint.
There will be a medal somewhere along the line. I'm going to leave you with this on about Cam. I can't tell you how many people have said to me, "Oh my God, you're married to Cammie. She's so nice. She's so sweet. She's this, she's that. Amazing." Nobody has said that to her. Nobody. 17
What does that
years.
tell you?
Yeah, exactly. The picture becomes pretty clear, man. It becomes
classic.
clear.
Fair enough.
A couple questions, if I can, and if you need to run, just let me know. But I wanted to ask you about Ottawa and what you think about this team through its rebuild and where you see it currently at.
I see a lot of the Hartford Whalers in the Ottawa Senators, and people might laugh at that. We had a phenomenal team in Hartford, and it had to be brought to the ground floor. And then all these kids showed up in Hartford at the same time. Ron Francis, Ulf Samuelsson, Kevin Dineen, Dean Evison, Paul McDermott, Brad Shaw, myself. All of a sudden, we were all 21, 22 years old. We came to overtime in Game 7 against Montreal in 1986. They won the Stanley Cup. A couple of years later, ownership changed and they decided we don't want to wait for these young guys anymore. What I'm telling you is you've got to wait for the young guys because like Shane Pinto's going to look great and then he's going to flatten out. But you can't lose patience because he's a terrific player. You got to wait for that flat spot to be an upswing again. But I see talent and skill and speed. The goaltending is the one place that I look at and go, like, do one of those young guys jump up and grab the deal? Because if they do, they've got so many prospects. That's going to bubble into something really great. So when I say I see the Hartford Whalers, that means I see a really great road in front of the Senators. I really do.
Can you talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs? Would you?
I was going to ask him that
question.
too. I have to know Ray's
like
angle on the Maple Leafs. Yeah.
Okay, so I talked earlier about goal scoring and getting into the middle of the ice. And so the Leafs have a bunch of advanced stats that look really good. They have possession of the puck a lot. They complete more passes. Their skill is obvious. Until they can figure out how to get inside the game, not for a little bit, but to get in there and stay in there, they're not going to be successful. And to think, like, one of the greatest misnomers is, man, we want to dominate a game for 60 minutes. You'd never do that. That never happens. It's the other team's trying really hard too. And they're going to have portions of the game where they outplay you. That just happens. But the Leafs don't have shift after shift control of the game like they need to have. And like even last night they lose, well, first of all, they get pumped in Pittsburgh. That means they were just outworked by an American Hockey League team.
I was just going to say that. Yep.
Hey, like sometimes, Mark, like, you don't have to be the best player. Helps if you've got lots of the best players, but you've got to at least match the commitment, the work ethic, the desire on a 50-50 puck that even if you lose it, you're going to get it back. Somehow you're going to get it back. Well, they get the crap kicked out of them in Pittsburgh a couple nights after losing to San Jose, who was playing on back-to-back nights. So Hutchison, there's always a reason. Hutchison didn't play well that game. Yeah, but still, you should be good enough to beat San Jose in that spot. They get their rear ends kicked in Pittsburgh. Now they play last night. Carolina's a good team, but Carolina gets to the inside of the ice and they stay there and they fight for their position. And Toronto just, I mean, it was better, sure, but better is relative.
Yeah. And Ray, when you say that, just briefly, because I know, again, we're holding you for a long time. When you say getting to the inside for people listening, you mean like getting into those harder areas that people don't necessarily always want to go to, like we talked about earlier? Is that kind of what you're getting to?
Yeah. So what I look at is like, so they've got the puck, they've got control of the puck, they enter on the zone and they've got control. The guy ends up behind the net. Now he's circling behind the net. He's got the puck. That's great. The other five guys are still defenders, are just standing in the middle of the ice. They're going to let you skate around. Great. You got possession all the time. There has to be a give and go, close support that's inside the defender. And you go there and maybe nothing happens right away, but now you grind it back in the corner and you use your skill in a tight spot, but now you're on the inside of the battle.
Yeah.
And eventually somebody takes a penalty, somebody gets beat out of position. And now I can see anyway, I made a living on the power play. They're in total panic mode on the power play. It's now one guy trying to rush the puck into the zone. Everybody's talking about, oh, Marner in the bumper position. Hell, they can't even get to that.
Exactly.
They don't get in
They're
the
not
zone.
even setting up. Yeah.
So it's funny. There's this fine line between relaxation. You got to relax to play well, but you've got to grind. There is no substitute for the grind. And I'll say this about, like, to use a best player example, the best grinder in the history of the game is Sidney Crosby. He plays on the inside of the game.
Yeah, he's relentless. I agree.
Right. And like, you're playing against him and you're like, go away.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the puck.
Just
and he
keeps
comes
coming
back and he wants it back. And you can't say, they got the puck, I'm gonna track back. No, get it back. Fight for it. And if Toronto can find that, they've got plenty of talent. If they can't find that, they're going to have stretches where they kick the crap out of teams that aren't as good as them. And then they're going to struggle against the teams that'll do that more than them.
Last question. I asked this to Gord the other day. What would be his final game he'd like to call before he retired? And I'm not retiring you, but do you have, like, what would be your favorite final game? Would it be to work alongside Gord at a World Junior or the Stanley Cup final, or does it really matter?
I haven't, you know what? I don't have a thought of that. A Stanley Cup final, sure. But here's the thing. You're asking me today. Gord has become a great friend, like not just a coworker, but somebody I can rely on, somebody I know is always prepared, somebody who does an amazing job. And so if we get to do this for 10 more years, yeah, I'd like it to be a gold medal game at the World Junior, and it to be a crazy junior 6-5 wild game like we've had before. That would be a great way to go out. But if it's not, you just want to work with the people that, it's the people. It's honestly, like, we should know this by now, but as you get older, you realize it more. No matter what you do, it's just the people you do it with that matters. There is nothing I enjoy more than I'm working a game with Gord, because I said I've worked 700 games with him. Chris Edwards is in my ear, where there's nothing going on about the game. He's telling me about the Oilers score because he's a big Oilers Oilers fan. And then Franklin, our director, something will go wrong, and Franklin just says quietly in my ear, "Sorry about that." Cracks me up every time. Like, that's the stuff I love about my career. And I'm starting to see that with my ESPN family too. Like, stuff you just laugh about that happens. That's the best.
I agree. So we're going to let you go. The one thing I do get to now, so I saw you on ESPN calling a game, and I was like, that's Ray. Like, I know him. I felt like I had the privilege to work alongside you for so many years that I appreciate what we used to be able to do and work together. So all those times you helped me out, it's a thank you. I can't say enough how good you've been to me over the years. So much appreciated.
Thank you, Wally. I'll tell you what I did enjoy. I loved right before you were doing an interview to make mention that your tie didn't match your suit, because it would rattle you. And I love, geez, Wally, you're going to wear that tie? Huh. Looks good, I guess. And then the interview would start. I just loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Hey, you guys, your show is awesome. It's funny. It's informative. I love it. And hope to come back on again.
Thanks,
You
Ray.
can come on anytime. I'd like to get Cammy on before you come on again, but you always have an open invitation.
Oh, she will have nothing but positivity about me. I'm sure about it.
Thanks, Ray. Take care, my friend.
Okay. Peace, guys. Be well.
Take care.
That's Ray Ferraro spending some time with us alongside here at the Wally Methot Show. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back to the show. And now welcome once again, Craig, to the show. Craig, as we all talk about now, the Sens in Dallas. We've all been to Dallas covering the Sens, or at least playing for, and some other one of the individuals has actually been a member of the Dallas Stars. So, Meth, we'll start with you. Do you have a favorite thing about Dallas?
The food and the people. Like, Southern hospitality is a real thing. And like, we would be down at a grocery store with our newborn, for example, and like, a sweet lady would come up and just want to talk to us about our kid. And that, like, and I don't say this lightly, that happened all the time. And never mind the people, the restaurants, there's so much food, great food down there that like you could eat out at a different restaurant every day for a couple of years and you're always hitting up a new spot. It was mind blowing. So I think I could go on a long rant of all the stuff I loved about it. I love the gun ranges. I love shooting guns. Listen to this. This is the difference between Canada and the US, or particularly Texas. I went to a gun range. So my wife had to leave. I was still injured. So I was away from the team. They were on the road. My wife had to run back home because we were in the midst of negotiating or trying to buy a new home here. So she had to go check it out. Anyway, I'm like, what am I going to do today? I got nothing to do. I'm like, I'm going to go shoot some guns. So I go to this gun range and I go to the desk and I'm very transparent. I'm like, bud, I have no idea what I'm doing here. He's like, well, what do you want to shoot? I'm like, I'll shoot a handgun. He goes, all right, well, which one do you like? You got the Glock, the Smith & Wesson, the SIG, Smith & Wesson, whatever. There's a bunch of different options. I'm like, I'll shoot the Glock. I know my brother is a police officer. I think that it's standard issue for a lot of OPS in Ottawa. So I'll shoot the Glock. So he's like, okay, here's your firearm. You got to hold it upside down. Just sign this paper first, actually. I'm like, oh, okay. So I sign this paper. It doesn't even check anything. And then I grab the paper, grab my ammunition, grab like a target, and I'm walking past all these like gun bays where there's like the big long rifles, the machine guns, and then the far bay is the handgun. So I go up and this person shows up and goes, do you know what you're doing? I'm like, no. Can you show me how to load it? I have no idea what I'm doing. So he shows me how to load it. He's like, yeah, I'll watch you fire off a round. So I fire off, I squeeze off, I don't know, like a full clip. I eject my mag. I turn around and he's gone. I'm like looking around thinking like, what? Like, you're okay. So turns out you don't need any information. You can just show up, grab a firearm, go and shoot it. And no one's supervising you or watching you. Like, I don't have a license at this point. And it was incredible, like terrifying, but incredible. But then I thought to myself, I'm like, even if I was some nut job, I would not last 30 seconds here because you've got all these other guys in the other bays with these crazy guns, and you wouldn't last a minute if you tried some funny stuff, I don't think. But much different and much more lax, their laws at least, than they are up here. So that's a little Dallas story.
Did you hit the target?
Yeah, I did, while you're like 15 feet away from it, right? So once you get used to the recoil, and now I'm a firearms owner now in Canada. I've got my courses under my belt and I own some. So it definitely kind of sparked some interest there.
All right. Interesting. Maybe we should go to the Stittsville. Can I go shoot a gun or do I have to have
I don't know. So I don't know what the rules are with that now. I think they've changed them in light of COVID, but I'll find out. Maybe we can head out there with Craig and we'll get Woody to take some video of us shooting some guns.
Pop off.
When I worked at Canadian Tire at 15, I was selling guns. I had
what? Really?
Yeah. I used to register guns in this book.
Yeah. It's fun if it's done. Like, I think people need to understand that in Canada, it's very responsible and the laws are crazy. Like they're very strict here and you need a million different documents to get your firearms license. So I will say that before people pass judgment here, our laws here are fantastic and they're very strict.
Craig, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, Meth, I was going to ask you actually, what did you know? I mean, you had the luxury of traveling to Dallas prior to getting traded there. Like, what were your expectations when you got traded there? Were you psyched? Like,
I was so fired up, so excited. I still remember I was at the Keg in Ottawa on Hunt Club Road when Jim Nill called me. Like, this is about 5 or whatever days after the expansion draft. And I remember my agent calling me first. I think it was first when he goes, Mark, I think Dallas is somewhat interested. Like, would you be okay with going there? And I'm like, why are you asking me this? Like, yes, call him, let him know, I want to go there. Because in my mind, it was a first-class organization, great reputation, really nice, warm place to play, no state tax. Like, it was like, in my mind at the time, it was like one of the top places to play in the NHL. And it turned out it was an incredible organization to play for. Like they take such good care of the players. There's no, anything you want, they'll do for you there. And Jim Nill, probably one of the best GMs in the NHL, like such a people person, like picked us up, my wife and I, drove us around the city, showing us different landmarks and places. He didn't have to do that, but he did that for us when we went down there. So I'm a huge Dallas Star fan.
Were you ever there in the off season? Like, because I've only been to Dallas, I think twice.
Yeah, we had to go down there in the middle of the summer to look for our house.
How was it? Because when we were there for the draft, end of June, if you were outside for more than 15 minutes, you'd have to go change.
Hot as shit. It was 40 plus degrees. Yeah. Oh yeah. You're like melting out there. And my wife at the time was pregnant, and they had us staying at the Crescent Hotel downtown there, where a lot of the team stay. And I like, me, I'm like, the sun's shining. I'm like, oh, well, I want to go to the pool. Like, you want to come? She's like, no, like her belly's out to here, right, with our son. And so she just hibernated in the room most of the time. Because of course, when you're pregnant and it's 115 Fahrenheit outside, like you can't do very much. So, but other than the heat in the summer, awesome city.
Yeah. Brent, you got a Dallas story or something you like about Dallas?
Oh, you know what, Matt, do you remember, I had to cover actually a kart race in like 1997, I think it was, at Dallas Fort Worth at the Texas Speedway. Yeah. And wherever we were staying is called a dry county. So they didn't serve alcohol, but in the middle of the dry county is a bar. So as long as you go to the bar and sign a membership piece of paper, they serve you drinks. So you just literally have to give them $5, which they give you a free drink for, in order to sit there. And I'm like, what's the point of the dry county? There's a bar in the middle of it. Anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But
it's really like, I can't say this enough. Like when you go down there, because Dallas is a metropolis, right? But you can there's so much to do. You just mentioned Dallas Fort Worth. Like Fort Worth is like an old Western style preserved town where there's kind of like these saloons and there's cows going up, like longhorns going up and down the streets, and there's cowboys everywhere, and there's rodeos. And then you can drive west of Dallas, Texas, where you're going into the small towns. Like it's really cool, and there's a lot to see down there. Anyway, I encourage anybody to catch a game, fly down there, do a little touring around. It's a lot of fun.
Have you guys been to the new Cowboys stadium there? I mean, it's not brand new; it's a couple of years old. Yeah,
unbelievable.
It's the
unbelievable
biggest building I've ever been inside. I think it's insane. And then they have, how cool is that? Like the outside kind of for post game and stuff. Like we hung out after, we did like I think it was a Sunday nighter or something. And after the game, it just spills out. There's bars, and it's crazy. All the players showed up too. Like it was unreal. It was one of the
do a great job. Yeah, and their facility in Frisco, their practice facility is stupid. It's right next to ours in the range. I say ours, right next to the Dallas Stars and the Rangers. They're all sort of in the same area north of Dallas. And they have like this outdoor field there. And like you always see Jerry Jones's helicopter in the middle of the field, and he goes back and forth all the time. Like it's a different world. It's a completely different world.
I know your checklist. I know your checklist of things. How do the taxes rank in Dallas? Not so bad.
The taxes?
Yeah, I know that's the thing you look at. So not so bad.
What a game! I mean, if you're a complete liar if you say that it isn't, right? Like you play in Ontario, right? These keep.
Nice catch. That was a nice catch, though.
You can play in Ontario, where it's pretty miserable in the winter and it snows a lot. I'm from here, I can say this. And you're paying like whatever it is, 50. I know people don't want to hear an athlete talk about taxes, but you're paying 53%, then you go back down there and it's 38. And I don't care what anybody says. It's very influential when it comes to finding a landing spot for a team, especially when the organization is currently, getting some success on the ice and they're playing well. Like, how do you beat that? So anyway.
It's potentially, and I know against numbers, if you have a big contract like Jamie Benn, it's millions of dollars in business.
So they showed that there was a statistic on that, right, where they ranked all the top paying players, and I think Jamie Benn was around like 6 or 7 in the league. But then after taxes, they had him up there at number 1. Like it wasn't even close. He was ahead of Stamkos. Mind you, Stamkos is also in a no state tax spot, but Jamie Benn was right up there. Like it's a game changer for sure. And when you're talking about millions of dollars a year that you're saving, like, come on. Anyway, I know people don't want to hear that.
I want to hear that. I like hearing that stuff. I don't know.
Well, no, if you're an Ottawa fan and you're genuinely, embedded here, and it's demoralizing to listen to a little bit, but it's just the way the league works.
It's just reality though. Like it's literally just reality. Anyway.
Yeah, boys. Hey, great job with Ray there too. I thought that Ray interview was great.
It was fun.
Pretty cool to hear. So we got a little trivia from the Ray interview. We were giving away one of the Gong Show hoodies. Shout out to our friends at Gong Show. They've been the best lately. Some very cool stuff up on their website too. The Wally Methot collection. Go check it out. Grab yourself a hat. I was at the game the other day, boys. A little incognito action. And I saw a few hats in the wild. I saw some Wally Methot hats hit the ice. for Drake Batherson's first career hat trick. So that was pretty cool. So shout out to everybody who's been doing that. If you guys are going to the game and you're wearing the stuff, tag us in a picture. We'd love to see it, man. We'll retweet that stuff instantly. Everybody that's been doing it, appreciate it. So, hey, here's an opportunity for you to score yourself one of these. Maybe rock that to the game or out with your friends or the bar or wherever. If you know the answer to this one, which goalie did Ray Ferraro score his last regular season goal on? If you know the answer to this one, head on over to Twitter. Use the hashtag Wally Methot and tag at Gong Show Gear on Twitter. And we'll reveal the winner on our next show.
Former Ottawa Senator is in that trivia answer.
Oh, okay. That's a good little tip for everybody.
I couldn't even guess. Were you asking me, Wally?
No, I never ask you the trivia questions. No, you can't even remember the games you played in.
Excellent point. I own that.
Monday is our next show. It should be live, 1:00. Kyle Bukauskas from Sportsnet will be joining us. As always, some good chats with Kyle. So we'll see you on Monday. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. This is the Wally Methot Show. See you after the weekend.